Hello, my name is Robert Wood and we're going to guide you through some enterprise strategy, CIMA E3 paper. The syllabus document that we have on the screen just here at the moment, the E3 syllabus, takes us across a range of areas, but ultimately what it is going to be doing here is introducing us to the four parts of the syllabus. Part A carries 20%, as does Part B, and Parts C and D 30% each. So it's a fairly even spread that sits across on terms of our learning outcomes here. The thing is that our learning outcomes are a little bit vague and tend to interact and interrelate with other areas. So we are going to need to focus our attention down onto the actual syllabus content itself, the indicative content. At the moment you should be looking and casting your eyes over document A from the page, and you can see the full learning outcomes and syllabus content as they stand on the original CIMA identification. Document B also needs to be identified and isolated out, where it's going to create a working document for us as we go through our time together in preparation for this examination. If I can take you to document A first of all, which is hopefully what you're looking at here on the screen at the moment, when we can start to see that section A talks about dealing with the competitive environment. And that's largely taking us off out in terms of the external environment, think about sort of various locations and directions and things, and ultimately where we are going to be going with all of this. And part B, change management. Ultimately, all strategic adjustment and introduction is going to need some sort of change, and it needs to be managed on that basis. As I say, with the 20% weighting, we're going to be looking here how to manage the change process, to be proactive in that particular area, and at the same time to see perhaps how we might go about looking at some of the practicalities of a cultural change, which it all involves. Section C takes us to the evaluation of strategic position and options. This is traditional enterprise strategy or business strategy, you can see, with the idea of strategic options. How do we go about the actual process of doing this? How do we pick the right strategy? And ultimately the models going to be associated with it. Section D takes us down for the final 30% on the implementation of strategic plans and performance evaluation. Again, traditional CIMA material here as we look at the areas of performance evaluation, its involvement in control systems and structures and the different types of businesses, and perhaps how it all links together, and perhaps at the same time thinking about the generation of information for some basis of competitive advantage. But I say the document in document A that you're looking at the moment, that we are looking at here on the screen as we can see, is actually the learning outcomes with the indicative content. I'd like to take you over onto document 2. Document 2 strips away the vague learning outcomes and identifies the indicative syllabus content. So if I can just take you over onto this for a second on document 2, what you will find in your basis here is that you have the sections as we had before, the A, B, C and D, but this time what I've put on there are the syllabus sections. And what I've done is I've actually numbered the syllabus sections, and if you look on the document you can see that there are 46 chunks of syllabus here that we need to be, shall we say, a little bit familiar with. As we go through our time together, I'm going to tell you which part of the syllabus we're going to be looking at when we get around to it. Some of these things can be dealt with very quickly in a matter of minutes, whilst others really sort of link in and cross-fertilise with other parts and have to be dealt with in different orders. But really what we're going to be tackling out in here is just having a look at the main chunks of information. So the working document is very much document B, document 2 that you've got there. As we go through the time together in this study, is work on the way through those 46 items. Now, how does this all fit into our examination? The examination itself got a revamp in 2010. As it currently stands, as I'm sure you're aware, there will be some pre-seen material that is common to all of the strategic level papers. And from this pre-seen material, we will find some enterprise strategy will be included within it, which ultimately would suggest perhaps areas that we might need to look at once the examination or the pre-seen is released a few weeks before the examination. Historically, what we've seen here is it's taking us off out to consider areas of mission, objectives, what the company's trying to do is performance, and maybe some sort of results related to past strategies that have either worked or not worked, or maybe some indications towards the strategic capability. Either way, I want you to imagine that the pre-scene sets the scene. There's no need for us to do huge volumes of work other than to identify. On terms of the pre-scene, we'll be back to look at that on another session once it's out and we can see exactly what we're going to be addressing in November this year. So, looking and seeing what we're going to be doing and where we're going in this particular basis. What about the examination itself? Well, it's a 3-hour paper. You have your 20-minute reading time, a 50-mark case sitting at the beginning with some numbers involved in it, will be driven by the pre-scene. So in other words, it will follow on. As you read this case in the examination, it will be referring to things in the pre-scene. And if you haven't read the pre-scene, it won't make an awful lot of sense. So there is some sort of linkage that will sit in between it. The 50 marker is at section A. It's compulsory. You have to do it. And it's going to be split down into multiple parts, A, B, C, D, E, and would examine several parts of the syllabus at the same time. When we go into section B, there are 3 25 markers. They're all cases taking up usually half to 2/3 of a page. And of these 3 25 markers, you have to do 2. So, we can draw one of them out in a situation, but that's a section B. And these section Bs don't follow on from the pre-scene material. They are generally standalone. The actual make-up of these questions, if we took a typical section B question, what we would find is that ultimately it's likely to be multi-part, A, B, possibly even a section C, with marks separately identified out for it. And some of these questions will be very direct, and they will ask you what is meant by. And other ones will tend to be a little bit more generic, which will give you the opportunity to use your skills, your application, to draw on the material that's available to you and start to say, well, okay, look, I think I could use this and use this. So just start to think about questions. Ultimately, once we've covered the base material, the idea then is to say, well, not so much a case of what is the answer, but what is my answer? Not mine, but yours. And so ultimately, we can build answers at different stages. But at this stage, at the starting point here in the preparation for your examination, what you would need to think very much along, first of all, first month and a half, maybe 2 months as you're working there, or however long you're going to be putting down there, material, let's just cover it. And ultimately what you need to know, rather than going down into infinite depth. Remember, it is a professional examination. We just need to be able to get a rough idea of what's going on without rewriting the sort of academic rules. Other than that, the introduction is now complete. Remember, keep document 2 handy with you. We can see where the syllabus sections we're going. And so we'll now close this session and move into our first section, where we're going to be looking in terms of strategy basics. Thank you.